President Biden's new strategy to combat the Delta variant comes after the release of hundreds of pages of documents which shed new light on the connection between Dr. Fauci and the Wuhan Institute of Virology. According to a top scientist who analyzed the documents for The Intercept, they show that Dr. Fauci has been untruthful about the gain-of-function research at the lab. But the question now is, will he be held accountable? Let's welcome in now Pennsylvania Congressman Guy Reschenthaler, a member of the House Judiciary and Foreign Affairs Committee, also an Iraq War veteran. Guy, great to see you.
John, you too. Thanks for having me on as always. And it's about time somebody holds Fauci accountable.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it is a crime to lie before Congress, and Dr. Fauci seemed to bristle at the idea that he was being less than truthful. But this isn't Rand Paul, you know, who has been right about this, but, you know, he's a Republican congressman. So you got a doctor here, one of the top scientists, analyzing this for The Intercept, saying that Fauci has been untruthful. I mean, Michael Cohen went to jail because he lied to Congress. What about Dr. Fauci?
Well, we also impeached the president for lying under oath for perjury. Remember that. John, there's two reasons why Fauci should be prosecuted, or at least charges should be brought against him for lying to Congress. Number one is specifically with Fauci. Fauci has repeatedly lied on this issue when he was obviously lying to Senator Paul, and Dr. Paul gave him the opportunity to correct the record. He didn't. He's been that blatant. Not only has he been lying to Dr. Paul and members of Congress, he's been lying to the American people, albeit not under oath, but he's been misleading the public, which has led to a lot of mistrust of the science, a lot of confusion with the strategy going forward. And it's very clear that we cannot believe Dr. Fauci. Now, globally speaking, why we have to prosecute and why charges should be brought against Dr. Fauci is this. If there are no repercussions for people committing perjury before Congress, then we, in essence, have very little ability to conduct oversight, because anybody that comes before a House panel or a Senate panel will have no disincentive to lie before Congress. The oath will, in essence, mean nothing during testimony. So members of Congress will not be able to determine if the person testifying is having candor with the committee that's asking the questions. So for all those reasons, we should prosecute Dr. Fauci, bring charges against him, and make sure that those that would commit perjury are chilled from doing so from the example of Dr. Fauci.
What do you think about what the president is going to propose today for government employees and contractors? Have to get the vaccine, no exemptions, no testing option. That seems pretty heavy-handed.
It is heavy-handed, John. You know, the best thing that the president can do to quell fears about the vaccine is give credit where credit is due. And what do I mean by that? He could stand on that stage and thank President Trump and the Trump administration for Operation Warp Speed. If he did that, this would no longer become a partisan political issue. But there's been so much political games that are coming from this. And you know, if you add politics to science, you get science every time. We don't need political science. We need actual science. So when Redfield stands before Congress and holds up a mask and says, this will do more than a vaccine, look, that was complete nonsense. And when Biden gets up and Kamala Harris gets up and say, I won't take the vaccine because President Trump developed it, that caused a lot more panic than anything else that's going on. And additionally, if he just had honesty with the American people, like Prime Minister Merkel of Germany did, where she stood on the stage early on and said, look, there's no way the government can control a virus. We're either going to have to get this naturally, or everyone's going to have to get vaccinated when vaccines are developed, and then we'll get herd immunity. That's the correct answer. She did not play politics. She, as Joe Biden would say, she was shooting straight, but she was speaking straight with the people of Germany. Joe Biden and the liberals in the administration continue to politicize this issue, which is, again, leading to fear and unrest.
Yeah, politics, unfortunately, has played way too much of a role in this situation. Let's talk about Afghanistan now. 200 people have finally evacuated today. That does include apparently some Americans who remained in that country. They will land in Qatar. You know, we had this back and forth. I mean, the emails have been released. It does look like it was the State Department holding things up in a bureaucratic catch-22 of their own making here. But again, you know, the end result here is this is the Biden administration and this State Department relying on the goodwill of the Taliban to get these folks out of the country?
Without a doubt, the Biden administration, the top military brass, Austin, Milley, and the rest, have put Americans in this vulnerable position where we have American citizens, we have green card holders, American allies literally behind enemy lines. And we now have to grovel and beg the Taliban to release what, in essence, are hundreds of hostages. We were put in this position because Joe Biden, again, wanted to do what was politically expedient so he could stand on the stage on September 11th and say that we've withdrawn from Afghanistan and the war is over. He was so focused on the optics that we now have this dire situation. And John, mark my words, when the Republicans retake the House and we have Chairman Jamie Comer on the Oversight Committee and we start to investigate this debacle, I'm willing to bet that the Biden administration, just like they did with Iran, is sending pallets of money over to the Taliban to secure the release of our hostages. The Taliban is not doing any of this out of the kindness of their own heart.
No, the Taliban is working in some ways. I know it might not make sense, but they're working in some ways with al-Qaeda and also with ISIS-K in that country. And we are negotiating with terrorists in effect. Now, you mentioned James Comer and the potential for oversight here. I also want to talk about another one of your colleagues, Mark Green from Tennessee. He wrote a letter to Secretary Blinken yesterday that claimed that unvetted Afghan refugees are being given, quote, free reign of a military complex in Virginia, and they've been allowed to leave the base in Ubers. They have not been vetted yet. You know, one of the things that's been pointed out here is that we don't even have space on our military bases for homeless veterans to sleep or to take shelter, but we have unvetted Afghans who have free reign, according to Congressman Green.
Well, Dr. Green is absolutely right. He's a very close friend of mine and someone that I trust and admire greatly. But Dr. Green is absolutely right on this issue. What's happening is that because we're relying on the Taliban to let people through and onto our planes, they can then plant terrorists in those planes that then go to what are referred to as lily pad sites. So these would be third countries, Qatar, Germany with Ramstein, a few other places. That's where the vetting needs to really ramp up. We need to vet in the so-called lily pad sites, because once we bring them here, look, there's a lot of good people, no doubt, but just one or two bad seeds could have a devastating effect. I mean, 19 people orchestrated 9/11, just to give you an idea. And once they're on the bases, there's a lot of carrots for people to stay on the base: free housing, free food, etc. But there are no sticks. There's no way, just like Mark Green said, to stop somebody from jumping in an Uber and moving about the interior of the country. Again, this has been a debacle from start to finish.
Even, when these folks are apparently vetted, we saw an attack down at the Air Force Base in Pensacola not too long ago. We know what happened in Fort Hood, too, with Hassan all those years ago. There are, concerns, obviously, and I know you're trying to get to the bottom of it. Congressman Guy Reschenthaler from Pennsylvania, thank you so much.
Hey, thanks, John. Take care.